and is able to, I think, have them on a less stressful pain regimen. So, you know, we've come a long way. We want to go a little bit further. Why don't you talk a little bit about what, you know, what on the national level, what the veterans issues are and what we can do about them?
Thank you. Thank you very much, John, for filling us in on a Michigan point of view. Yeah, Marty Chilcutt, as John said, couldn't be with us today. He's just not able really to take the trip. So he's at home, but he's working hard in the local Kalamazoo area. But I think, you know, his story is important because for y'all to understand that an individual out there can make such a difference. Marty working basically as just a single person, an individual with very little, if any backing at first at all, just started going to the media and just making it a point to bring this story again and again and again about how veterans are adversely affected by the criminal laws against the medical use of cannabis. And it was really Marty pushing that envelope that made it possible for the issue to really be brought up in the big arena, because without his individual effort, the media wouldn't have made it their first priority to go get the comment from the VA as soon as the Michigan law was passed. And I think it was great. You know, this is a very well coordinated effort. You know, that every citizen that voted on the initiative really, you know, made a statement. Thank you, Michigan, for stepping forward and being one of the 16 states in the District of Columbia with legal medical marijuana. That's fantastic. From my point of view, you know, you're all activists and heroes. I'm just so proud to be here. But you know, what happened there with Marty is interesting because the answers that he got from Detroit and from Ann Arbor didn't match up with what they were telling me in Washington, D.C. I had been working on this pain contract issue in Washington, D.C. for about 10 years. And in Washington, D.C., they look down and they just don't see a lot of the stuff going on with individuals, how this is actually really harming individuals. They, for example, never really crossed their mind that legitimate patients were going to be, you know, cut off from access to treatment. You know, I actually just was in a conversation recently with a top-level management person in the VA ethics department who just offhandedly said, but you have a right to your pain treatment. Yes, I know I have a right to my pain treatment. It's written in the rules. Why is it still that the pain treatment is being denied to so many veterans across the country? And when we got an answer in Ann Arbor that said, yeah, sure, if they are complying with the state law, we're not going to take away their pain treatment, we said, wait a minute. That's not written down anywhere, not anywhere, not in any of the thousands and thousands of pages of documents on Capitol Hill was it written down that they weren't going to hassle you if you use medical marijuana per state law. So we crafted a question, worked it through the chain of command, starting with the General Counsel of the VA, finally getting answered by the Undersecretary of Health of the VA. And that answer was, yes, that is the way it should be. That's the policy as we would be following it if it were written down. And we brought that to the New York Times, who actually thought that was an interesting story and put it on the front page of the New York Times. But the VA said, wait a minute. We would like to write it down before you put it in the New York Times. So we waited a day or two, we being everybody, I guess, in the United States, for a policy to come down. In July of last year, they passed the very first ever medical marijuana policy at the VA. Amazing, since medical marijuana has been in the states legal since 1996, but no one had ever pushed the envelope before, no one ever took them to task before, and they never had to write it down. So now, what does it say? It says, well, they're a federal entity, so don't bring your pot on the campus. Well, that seems pretty, logical and pretty much common sense until you think about it. Wait a minute. That means if I'm in a hospital, I can't have my medicine because I'm in a hospital. they're not going to be able to enforce that one. If you're a veteran and you're in a hospital and you need to be in that hospital, you bring in your pot, you have someone bring in your pot to you. If you have trouble, you call me. And the next one, they don't allow doctors within the VA to write recommendations or to fill out any forms. If you're a VA patient, a VA vet, you know, going to VA facilities for your health care, don't ask them to fill out Michigan forms. Definitely bring your Michigan, you know, documentation to your doctor if you feel comfortable talking to your doctor about your medical marijuana use. I don't see where it's really all that relevant if you don't want to talk about your medical marijuana use. But if you are comfortable talking to your doctor at the VA, definitely bring the paperwork. The directive that we got passed actually spells out how the doctor's supposed to fill out the forms and where they're supposed to put that documentation in your record. So if they follow the rules, it shouldn't harm you in any way. They shouldn't take it in any punitive action against you. Only taking it into consideration that you use marijuana and, you know, considering that when they consider all your other health variables as a good doctor should. So we asked, hey, wait a minute. The Conant decision protects doctors. This is Supreme Court ruling. All the doctors in Michigan, California, Oregon, wherever that write recommendations do so, and they do so feeling they have great authority to do so, because the Conant decision found it that they had a constitutional right to write those recommendations. So we went to the ACLU and we said, wait a minute, do these doctors not have a constitutional right like other doctors? And believe it or not, at this point, the answer appears to be no. Doctors at the VA don't appear to have the same constitutional rights as the rest of the doctors in the country. If there's any doctors at the VA that want to fight that policy, call me. And then, of course, the part of the policy that we like, the part of the policy that we like is very simple. If you're using medical marijuana, if you're using it per doctor recommendations per a state law, that use of medical marijuana does not preclude you from receiving any services at the VA. Even if those services at the VA might intuitively seem to be conflicting, like addiction services or pain management, there is absolutely no administrative action that is supposed to be taken against the patient for using medical marijuana if they're complying with the state law. Now, our issue has been the VA doesn't operate that way. The VA has doctors that could be from any state. Once they're in the VA, they're a VA doctor, and they're supposed to follow federal law that applies to all veterans equally. So what about a veteran in Iowa? What about a veteran in Florida? And we've been working really hard to try to change policy. Right now we're working, still focusing on the pain contract, because if we can remove marijuana from the pain contract across the board, that would have a sweeping effect that would kind of pave the way, make it a little easier for a national medical marijuana policy that makes sense in the VA. So towards that end, we're working with our elected officials. We're trying to meet with the different senators and congressmen that oversee the VA. We're also meeting with different leaders within the VA system, which is a very tough nut to crack. The VA has its way of doing things, and you have to kind of take a very slow, measured approach to get anywhere with the VA. But know this, we have great respect for the VA. We try to work as partners with them. You know, we all have the same goal. We're all looking for a good, best health outcome for vets, and that's where we're come from. So I want to tell you all, you know, that the number one question that we get from vets, you know, is, does this affect my compensation? Am I going to be in some sort of trouble with marijuana associated with my name? Are they going to take away my benefits as a vet? And there's some good benefits that are very important to a veteran and a veteran's family. Our answer has been no, that there isn't really any way that just participating in a medical marijuana program is going to put you at risk. We found that the only way that you're going to be at risk is if you're in prison for a felony. While you're in prison, you lose benefits. I don't know if, John, if you want to talk more about that? About the, you know, the legalistic aspects of using medical marijuana as a veteran?
Well, I mean, it's all, you don't have any special benefits under criminal law because you're a veteran, but generally speaking, veterans from Vietnam back in the 80s and now what I'm seeing locally, I mean, there are some issues. There's issues with alcohol, there's issues with drugs, there's issues with reintegration, and sometimes you have criminal law components to that. I did have a question for you. How many, do you know how many veterans are receiving benefits from the VA, roughly?
I don't have the numbers perfectly in my head, but I can tell you this, that when I did look at the statistics for the number of veterans, number of disabled veterans, it's absolutely amazingly large. You're talking in like 25 million or something for just disabled veterans, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's a very, very large population. And the VA, I was just looking at the federal website the other day, and it was like $90 billion or something like that a year, you know, that the VA spends in healthcare. It's a very big enterprise, and the VA is also a research institute that does a lot of key research into treatments for cancer, treatments for a lot of different types of prosthetics and stuff that they work on, trying to perfect for the troops. But they also extend that knowledge out, and it becomes part of the every doctor's arsenal in treating different injuries. The disabled veterans are just a little bit more likely than the average public to be disabled. That's the one thing about veterans. You're talking about a large disabled population.
And what's your experience been with our most recent veterans compared to people that have come back in a different generation?
Well, the Pew Research Center just released statistics about a week and a half ago, and those statistics were pretty alarming to some. They weren't to us because it fit in pretty much to what we've already been seeing, and this is the thing. We're over in Iraq, we're over in Afghanistan with a relatively small fighting force. We've got a very small percentage of the population of the United States that's being represented in the military these days. And then we're taking these troops and we're sending them back to the front line again and again. And we're raising the possibility of having post-traumatic stress symptoms, not to mention the host of other war injuries. Right now, the Pew Research Center said it was like 38% of the people coming back felt, whether it had been diagnosed or not, that they were suffering from post-traumatic stress. And that's a really, really high number. That shows us, with the trend of how we're using the troops, that this is an increasing problem.
So basically what you're saying is that we're sort of sending them back third, fourth tour instead of back earlier when they may have one or two, and they're coming back with issues that earlier generations didn't have.
Well, I think the overall statistics for post-traumatic stress in Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts haven't yet come up to the statistics for the post-traumatic stress from the Vietnam conflict. It's approaching those numbers. But you have to understand that these are it's very upsetting to me to think about the number of people out there that are coming back and they're facing these symptoms of post-traumatic stress. You have to understand just how devastating this can be. This is something that I've got vets that are telling me that cannabis is a lifesaver. I'm a pain patient, and I go without pain for a couple of days, and it sucks really bad. But if you're suffering from a condition where you can have an episode where you actually are in such a stressful situation in your body, in your mind, from the events that you've experienced over in Iraq or Afghanistan, or even from a childhood trauma. I mean, post-traumatic stress is not just a veteran condition. Medical patients, across the board with post-traumatic stress from different types of trauma. Basically, we've had an internal discussion about whether to call it a disorder. It's called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. But our individuals that we work with in medical terms really don't like that word disorder, because to them this is a normal reaction by a normal person that's been pushed beyond their limits. And if you take, 10 people and you push them all well beyond their limits, what they can really, handle emotionally, psychologically, they each handle it differently. And some people manifest these symptoms of post-traumatic stress. Those people that do may not be able to sleep at night, may be suffering from all kinds of chronic issues of pain and stuff like that, may have episodes where they actually just completely black out and are told later what it was that they did. That's a really, really bad scenario. And if cannabis can prevent that, it can stop that from happening. It can save their lives. It can save the loved ones' lives. It can definitely save their marriage. We're working with vets that tell us, it definitely saved their marriage. So, this is a medicine that isn't just ameliorating a symptom and making their life better and improving their quality of life. It actually is a lifesaver. And there aren't that many medical conditions where cannabis is actually a lifesaver. And we're trying to study this. This is something that we know works because veterans tell us it works and we trust their opinion. But we also like to have studies. The studies, they do a double-blind, placebo-based study where neither the researcher nor the patient knows whether they're getting active marijuana or not. And then everybody can get the real facts about what the drug is doing versus what any perceived value it might be. The double-blind, placebo gold standard study. Now, Rick Doblin, with the multi-applied psychedelic studies, the MAPS organization, I definitely encourage you all to look up these organizations. MAPS, M-A-P-S, Multi-Applied Psychedelic Studies, Patients at a Time, medicalcannabis.com, our organization, Veterans for Medical Cannabis, Access, we're at, spelled right out, Veterans for Medical Marijuana or veteransformedicalcannabis.org. And come and check out our documentation. The MAPS organization is great. They've done a lot of research on typically illegal things like hallucinogenics and things like that that have been scheduled basically arbitrarily by our Controlled Substances Act when it was passed way back when in 1970. And they're trying to do a study that we're very interested in on post-traumatic stress using cannabis. And they got FDA approval, which normally is enough. It was enough to do a study on ecstasy on post-traumatic stress, which is ongoing right now. Right now, we have patients using ecstasy to see if it helps with post-traumatic stress. I hope it is successful. That's great. I'm not working on that right at the moment. But cannabis is being held up by NIDA, by DEA. Every other drug that you'd want to study, you go through the FDA and you can study it. But no, marijuana is considered so dangerous that they won't allow us to study it. They're holding it up and giving us roadblock after roadblock. We put up a petition on the White House site. I really want to ask you all to help us. What we need 5,000 signatures. We're only about 1,400 short the last time I looked. So I'll know if y'all are helping. Go out there on your Facebook page, whatever. It's wh.gov, which is the White House server. And they've set up this petition thing called We the People. And they have allowed us to put up our petition. We get 5,000 signatures. It automatically gets put in proper channels at the White House. It's perfect. It's perfect for kicking off what we want to be a national effort to really show that there's support for vets having access to cannabis, and that we don't approve of them putting extra roadblocks in front of research that we want to do on cannabis to show that it works so that we can get the laws changed at the federal level. So our website is wh.gov/4xd. It's if you go on the White House site, if you can't find it through this link, they have the We the People petition, and you can just look it up as post-traumatic stress, cannabis, keywords, and you'll find it. But it's wh.gov/4xd. And please help us, spread the word, get signatures out on that petition, put it on your Facebook page, tell everybody about it. And if we can get a little bump of about 500 or 600 signatures in the next 5 or 6 days, we have hopefully some big media that's going to come out next week, and it'll finish off with a really good number. And like I said, I'm hoping that we'll be able to make this just the first salvo in ongoing effort to show, that we're not going to put up with what's going on. I'm a little confused right now with what's going on. I'm embarrassed if other speakers have talked about this earlier, but there's been an escalation in the war against medical marijuana in this country. The federal war has just gone right through the roof, and it really isn't being reported on by any major media in any real way. The ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, sent out letters telling gun dealers not to sell to medical marijuana patients anymore, that they should actually be putting that they're a drug addict on the form to when they buy a gun, which is ridiculous. The Department of Justice sending out letters to landlords telling them not to rent to dispensaries. The IRS trying to shut down some of the biggest dispensaries that we have. On and on. It's just been a really cascade of federal intervention. And we're trying to figure out, you know, these are the theories out there. Okay, I'll just run them by y'all. One theory is that Rob Raich, who went to the Supreme Court on medical marijuana, you might remember him, the lawyer that went to the Supreme Court on our behalf for medical marijuana, he says that the president is just weak, and the people under him are really hardcore conservatives, and it took them a while to get around his liberal approach, and they finally figured it out, and they got around him. That's one theory. I don't know. There's another theory. Maybe he's trying to hide his own medical, you know, his own non-medical use of marijuana that he has admitted to, perhaps. You know, this is very dangerous political water, I would say, for President Obama, because I want to support him as a president. I know the vets that I work with are very patriotic and very quick to support the federal government, and we want to support the president. But these actions don't portray a president that's supportive of states' rights or supportive of individual patient rights. This is either a president that is all of a sudden got a bone to pick against medical marijuana, or a president that's kind of lost control. So I really don't know which one it is, but I hope that, you know, everybody's prayers are out there, you know, in the right direction for us to find a good resolution for our problems with medical marijuana, because heck, we're talking real money here. They're turning down, I think the number was like $200 million just in California on positive revenue from the medical marijuana industry should they destroy it with their federal intervention. That's very upsetting. You know, the vets are mixed right in with everybody else at the dispensaries. You know, the people that you see at a dispensary, you never know who they are. You really never know who they are. Yeah, I remember Dr. Denny out in California, he said it best. You know, he had a patient come in, it was like the typical skateboarder with a typical skateboarder injury, and he said, no, I don't think that rises to a seriously ill enough condition in California to give you a recommendation. And then his skateboarding buddy came in, who is very, very seriously ill with a brain tumor, and very, you know, fighting for his life and suffering really badly. And Dr. Denny wished he could get the first guy back in to give him a recommendation, just so he'd have somebody to smoke pot with. So, you know, that's what we're talking about here. You know, this is real medicine for real people, part of a real community. And, you know, I know that there's a lot of support for vets out there, and I want to try to take that support and focus it so that it helps vets get access to cannabis and overcome this federal intervention. So that's what we're all about. I'll leave John here I think he's got a couple more comments to make while I drink some water, but thanks for your attention.
A few other comments. You know, I'm a criminal defense attorney by nature, by trade. You know, you guys got to know your rights out there. I mean, it's not illegal to medicate in public. It's illegal to smoke in public. There's differences. So what's happening here with the Detroit police, I think, is indicative. I mean, first of all, it's indicative of over-policing of our community, and it's also indicative of something bigger, which is that we, for the longest time, really have not been organized that well in self-educating and promoting ourselves and representing ourselves in a positive light to non-users. You know, there's a certain category of people that just will never use marijuana, medically or otherwise, for whatever reason. And, you know, there's been a lot of problems. I mean, there's been a lot of problems for veterans, but as a statewide community, you know, in the last summer, it's been a really hectic summer, and I think, you know, the honeymoon really is over. If you want to open up a dispensary, or if you want to be a caregiver and you want to deal with other than your 5 people, I mean, there's a lot of problems. And so what I would say is know your rights. Know what you say to police matters. It might end up in a police report, and you might have to deal with somebody like me who doesn't really give you the options you want to hear all the time, even though I give you options that other people won't give you sometimes. So in closing, you know, I think it's just sort of a call for us to all just be a little more educated and come to these conferences and talk to the people that are here that are knowledgeable, not just for growing marijuana, which certainly is an art and a skill, but also with interacting with your local government, your federal government, law enforcement, and people that, you know, people that are voters and people who you will eventually have to rely on to get a tax and regulate, you know, ballot proposal on the record with. I mean, in order for that to happen, you will have to have non-users support ending prohibition. In order for that to happen, you have to, we as a community really can't have any unforced errors, can't have any stupid mistakes, anything that, you know, makes us look illegitimate. So bear that in mind when you leave today and when you go tonight, that you guys are ambassadors to non-users, and it's the non-users that we need in order to really have a victory party for marijuana prohibition, because we're not there yet. Okay? Good night.
Thank you, John. I think it'd be kind of good to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're doing nationally and how you can help out. First of all, in a sister organization, Patients at a Time is having an upcoming conference down in Arizona with Dr. Andy Weil going to be participating. And what that organization does, if you go to that, medicalcannabis.com, you'll see there's videos up, and they've connected with the University of California, and doctors, nurses, any of the people that are professional caregivers can go get what's called continuing medical education credits by going to this cannabis course at the University of California online and watching these videos. The videos are taped at our conferences, like the one upcoming in Arizona, where they bring in experts from all over the world. People like Dr. Meshulam, who is one of the team that discovered THC and continues to make discoveries about the endogenous cannabinoid receptor system, and Dr. Andy Weil, experts in alternative medicine on use of cannabis. Author, I don't know if you know this, of the first human study on the use of cannabis since it was outlawed back in the Anslinger days. Patients at a Time, definitely check it out if you want to learn and watch videos. There's a lot of them that are connected on YouTube, so you can just go there and watch the videos. You don't have to pay money and get college credits to watch some videos. And what we're up to, we're working together with some activists that I think might be 1 or 2 around from Colorado that we're working with, trying to support their action to add post-traumatic stress to the state law there. We're also working to add post-traumatic stress to state law in Oregon and as well here in Michigan. That's Marty Chilcutt's effort that we're pushing to the next level. Hopefully, we need to talk about that. And then also too in North Carolina and Virginia, we're working on state efforts there as well. So it's kind of a multi-pronged approach. We're looking as well to do patient one-on-one advocacy, but we're figuring that if we don't get a level playing field on the federal playing field first, we really can't do much individually to help people. So we're taking our limited energy at the moment to work nationally, and then later when we can do a little more funding work and some fundraising, you know, activities, we're going to try to move more into individual patient advocacy. But anybody that wants to be involved, veteransformedicalcannabis.org, come in, you know, email us and become involved. As we get doing the next thing, you know, we'll email you, tell you what's going on. I'm really proud to be out here in this part of the country. I don't know if you all realize this, but there's just a couple little pinpoints where the marijuana movement started in the United States. And John Sinclair is walking around here somewhere. Absolutely. John Sinclair in the house. John Sinclair, one of the formative figures of the marijuana movement, back in the days before NORML, before High Times, back when Forsad took the mantle, he took the mantle from the Marijuana Review magazine and Amorphia. Morphia was connected with the White Panther Party and the Rainbow Coalition, and that was John Sinclair out here with Gary Grimshaw and many others that need to be named surely, that are real heroes in the marijuana movement, working at a time when it was serious penalties. He faced 10 years, just a couple of joints. 15,000 people showed up. John Lennon sung a song, and they let him out. And that's why you've got a change in law here in Michigan that was good playing field for you all to have medical marijuana pass. And I'm full of respect and admiration for founding fathers and mothers of the movement, and John Sinclair is definitely one. Definitely wanted to say a few words for him. What we're going to be trying to do next is we got to try to get a little bit of pressure from the members of Congress on the, right now we have the DEA getting pressure from a lot of different points, and one of them is a petition to reschedule cannabis. There's a lot of patients and a lot of organizations that have joined. This is an effort that's actually been going on, believe it or not, since 1972. But we've joined now, with Veterans Project has joined, and we're adding our voice, and that's where we need to focus. We need to focus effort and energy on the federal drug scheduling and getting marijuana out of that federal Schedule 1. They basically took Harry Anslinger's advice when they passed the federal law, and they put marijuana in Schedule 1, and they told us at the time, well, we'll talk about it later. Well, we're still waiting for that conversation. So if you look on the website of the White House, there's also a petition to have that conversation, and that petition is also doing quite well. Definitely, go and put your signature on other marijuana petitions on the White House server. But please do come out, 4XD, wh.gov/4XD, help us out on that. I think it might be good to turn this over to questions. If you all have any questions about veterans, angle and what's going on in medical marijuana, or in the connected work that we do, either in criminal defense or in marijuana policy nationally, feel free to ask a question about that too. And I'll just open it up for questions now. So if you have a question, just kind of put it in motion. They'll bring a microphone out to you. Any takers? Alrighty, if you don't have any questions, I suppose I'll wrap it up. I'm trying to think if there's anything I haven't covered yet that I'll regret as soon as I get to the car that I haven't talked about. But I really am very thankful for your attention. The veterans out there that are suffering from post-traumatic stress, chronic pain, they really need to have access in the states that don't have medical marijuana access now. So that's our focus, trying to get the states to all conform, and the only way to do that obviously is federal law. But that doesn't mean that we're not really motivated to help out in the states as well, and really support what's going on here in Michigan. John and I are at anybody's disposal if there's anything that comes up where you think that having our input might help for a press release or anything like that. Consider us your resource. But I really want to thank you all again for coming out and listening to us, and thanks, High Times.
That's Michael Krawitz and John Targowski. Let's hear a warm hand for these guys. Seriously, our troops are important, and medical marijuana is important for all these guys coming back, all these men and women coming back from these high-stress zones. So thanks again, both you guys. Nico Escondido is coming up at 5 o'clock. A little misprint in the schedule. Danny Danko is tomorrow. Nico is today. He'll be coming up at 5 o'clock with his seminar, all right? Once again, everybody, vote for best product, best booth, best piece of glass. The ballots are in your programs. Once you fill them out, turn them into the High Times booth, because we want our vendors to win Cannabis cups for all their great merchandise, all right? Once again, sports update. If you didn't know, Michigan State beat Michigan 28-14. You can go home now, all right?
This is the Medical Marijuana Radio Network. You are watching exclusive live coverage of the first annual Detroit Medical Cannabis Cup event sponsored by High Times Magazine at Berts Warehouse Theater in downtown Detroit. This is the Medical Marijuana Radio Network. You are watching exclusive live coverage of the first annual Detroit Medical Cannabis Cup event sponsored by High Times Magazine at Berts Warehouse Theater in downtown Detroit.
So what's coming up next is, can we have the schedule, Eric? You want to go to the schedule real quick? Just real quick. Just recap what's coming up next. Yep. And then we're up already?
I just turned you off.
Dude, you can hear me. Starting to hear something. All right. Are we back? Are we back live? We're back on.
Testing. 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 Guys, can you hear me? Guys, can you hear me? Okay. What? Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, right on. Well, we're back. Cannabis Cup 2011 here in Detroit. And upcoming at 5 o'clock, we've got another seminar coming up. And it's the cultivation seminar with the High Times cultivation editor, Nico Escondido. All right, good deal. And right now, before we go to that, we're going to have a guest on the show. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Chris Jaworski.
Right on. And who are you with?
My company's Octopots.
All right. And what's the latest innovations here?
Our latest innovation is what we call an oyster shell garden. And it's a simple kit to use with a 5-gallon bucket to make a super efficient self-watering container.
Excellent. All right. Well, give us maybe a description or something like that. Kind of maybe or maybe tell us more about other innovations you guys have.
Well,
or what makes this significant in any way?
All right. What makes this significant is that it uses both the technology of wicking, which is a hydroponic, and soil growing technology. So you provide consistent moisture to the plant while growing it in a large area of soil that rests above the reservoir, which allows it to get a lot of oxygen.
So it's a soil and hydroponic system.
A hybrid.
Oh, wow, I'm impressed already. I didn't realize that before we start talking.
Yeah,
wow,
it's like a Prius.
Oh, wow. All right, so you got the benefits then of the soil while having the same benefits of the hydro.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right on. So okay, for example, a benefit of dirt would be more. Well, I'll give you one. For example, I've had some experience growing. It's less. Attentiveness. You know what I'm saying? You need simple, right, for a first-time grower.
Correct.
So it's easier to make a slight mistake or an error and still recover the plant from it. Whereas if you have just a water system and you're not that experienced, you could have a slight mistake. Have something quickly get messed up, and it's harder to correct that with inexperience. But you have the speed then of hydroponics because it's faster. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, well, I think you described it pretty well.
Thanks.
I don't know what to add. That was great.
Well, thanks a lot. Right on. So what I wanted to ask you was, what makes this product stand out? What made you want to design and build this product? What was the impetus behind it?
I know that there are a lot of people who want to grow their own plants that are afraid to do it because they've had bad experiences growing in soil, or they're afraid to jump in full guns with the hydroponics. That's really it. I want people to be able to grow plants simply.
So this is the first time that you've kind of introduced this exposition. Is your grand opening? This is your big unveiling.
This is exactly what that is. These are only been. This was made last week.
So it's a prototype.
It's an early model prototype. It is, yeah.
That's very exciting. It's exciting to see this kind of stuff come along in the medical marijuana industry, or even in the grow and the horticulture industry. It's when you design a product from scratch and it's got a specific purpose and a specific market in mind, it's a beautiful thing. So what is the market you have in mind for this product?
Well, my market overall is for food and herbs, all herbs, not just cannabis. There are a lot of beneficial herbs out there that nobody is aware of because they don't grow out here. But if we can bring herbs from South America, for example, that the people are familiar with and that are using and teach us how to use them, we can use the same technology as the cannabis to grow other healthy plants as well as tomatoes, peppers, etc.
How does this connect together? This has got some...
All right, so what we have is it's basically the oyster shell is two pieces. It's a reservoir that holds a little over 6 gallons of water and then a wicking insert. Now, what you do is you purchase a bucket, you drill some holes in it, so when you put water in the reservoir, the water can flow through the hole in the bucket to get inside, where it then can come in contact with the soil that is in this wicking container. So the wick insert gets set inside the bucket. You take your soil, cocoa, whatever growing media you want to use.
You got your choice.
You've got your choice. It's very flexible, so you can use it up here in the north with peat-based, which are native.
Sphagnum moss?
Yes. Or if you're down south or in the islands, then you can use cocoa, which is also a native.
A natural soil substrate.
Correct.
How can people find out more about your product? If they were sparked on it, got an interest about this, and want to know the difference between this and what they're currently using, or this and what they're currently looking at, where can they go to find out more about this product?
They can go to our website, which is Octopot Gardens, OCTOPOT plural, and .com. Thank you. And we have a variety of planters that I've invented, everywhere from this little one up to a 55-gallon vegetable grower.
Now, do you have a telephone number that they can call? Is there a place there where they can call and order yet?
We're working on that. Like you said, this is a brand new thing. We are just in the process of getting everything online where you can place your orders. There is a phone number online. The number is 269-282-8080. And when you call there, if you would like to reach us, leave a message or whatever, and you can talk to us personally or place an order that way.
And they can get on the ordering list so that when these start kicking out of the factory, you can get them shipped out.
That's right.
Thank you so much. So again, the name of the business, and tell one more time the name of the website.
The name of the business is Octopot, and the name of the website is octopotgardens.com.
Awesome. We'll get a business card. We'll put some graphics up for you a little bit later.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much for coming by.
All right,
Appreciate it. So there you have it. It's another brand new product being released here at the Expo. We want to thank these guys for coming over. And you can see them right down here at Berts Warehouse Theater. We're going to take it back to the stage right now because the speakers are back, and we'll have more for you coming up at the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup right here on RadioWeedShow.com.
Close to nature as we can, even in an artificial indoor setting. And that's very hard to do. We all understand the problems associated with indoor growing, but I just want to put that out there right now. What I say up here today, some people may not agree with. It may be slightly controversial, but I'm not here to promote any product or any specific method. I'm just going to relate to you guys what I've learned over many years, 15 years now of growing around the world, and of course the 5 years I've been at High Times, the things that I've seen, I've learned more than I ever did just growing, just meeting all you guys, visiting your gardens, talking to people like that, and that's what I'm going to share with you guys. So just take it for what it's worth, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. So like I was just saying, these days cannabis is medicine. It's not just a recreational thing. It's not just for good times. We have patients who depend on their medicine, and because of that, we really want it to be clean. We want it to be as organic as possible, and we also want it to be strong. So what we want to focus on are a couple of issues. We want to understand how to maximize the potential of your gardens, okay? So when we move it inside, we all know that you can control your atmosphere, control your lighting, control what you grow it in. You have a lot more control, and you can really optimize your grow situation. People say to me, what do you think? Is indoor or outdoor better? I have to be honest. I think you can get better results indoors, but it's way harder, okay? But the only benefit that we have outdoors is the sun. And we cannot beat the sun indoors. And that's what we're going to get into right now. We're going to start talking about lighting. You know, I went into a grow room out in Northern California, and this excellent grower, he's got a couple of PhDs. He works actually for the United Nations on the Feed the World program for sustainable growing. And he said, you know, Nico, people come in and they look at their gardens and they go, oh, well, what's wrong with this leaf? Or am I getting proper drainage here? Or do I have good airflow, you know? And we're always focused on what's going on right here with the plants. And sometimes we forget to look up at our lights. Let's not forget, we've been using the same HID lighting now for almost 30 years. But the plant has evolved under the sun for millions of years. So that's what we're focused on. That's what we want to get back to. We want to find out how we can mimic the sun in our indoor operations. So then the question is, okay, well, what's light? Let's look here. Light is an electromagnetic disturbance that travels through space as a wave. Okay, whatever. Sunlight is full spectrum. It's high intensity plasma light. Light is the building block for photosynthesis. Without light, your plant's not going to
This
create
is the Medical
food.
Marijuana
So when
Radio
you think
Network.
about that question,
You are watching
what is actually
exclusive
the most
live
important
coverage.
thing in your grow room?
You are
I
wa-
happen to think it's light. You know, if you don't feed your plants for a few days, they're going to survive. If they don't get water for a few days, they're going to survive. If your lamps go off for a few days, you have big problems. So let's start thinking about what's above our plants. Photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? This is very important. Of course, we all know it's the process by which plants make their food. We always think, oh, well, I'm feeding it this line of nutrients, or I'm feeding it this. That's not what it's eating. It's using that as one of the building blocks to form its own sugars, its glucose, okay? And light is the catalyst for that. You'll see on the screen there's a simple equation, CO2 plus water plus light equals organic matter and oxygen. Now, the real key to this equation, though, is what you see right there. Light equals photons, okay? That's the food that the plants get from the light. It's all about photons. It's about how many photons are emanating out of that light and hitting the leaf surface, and how it uses that energy to create the glucose and the sugars that it needs to survive. So keep that in mind, because we're going to come back to that in a few minutes. Photons is a key to our lighting right now. The next question then is the intensity of the light, okay? That's what I'm talking about when we're talking about being outside under the sun's natural power. You can't match the intensity of sunlight. Even if you load your room with hoods end to end, 1,000 watts, it's not going to be as strong as the sun. But we could get close. And the way we get close is by putting our lights as close to our garden canopy as we can. You'll see on this chart here, if you remember from science class, it's the inverse square law. So what it's basically showing you is the further your lamps are away from your canopy, there's a diminishing return of light intensity. I'm going to step up here because I like to see you guys. I want to know are we engaged? Is everybody cool? Let's make some noise for a minute. I feel like we're just a little, we're not even smoking weed in here, and everybody's just like, what is going on? I don't know. I know you all smoked some weed today. Okay, so we're talking about intensity here. You all know you want to keep your lights as close to the canopy, to the top of your garden as you can. But this creates a problem because of heat. Okay, now I'm not going to go too much into that. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in the next slide. There's some ways that you can maximize that distance between your lights and your plant canopy. But you want to keep in mind, this is why people say, well, should I use a 1,000 watt or should I use a 600 watt? Well, you know, you get almost the same coverage with a 600 watt. And you're going to get less heat and you could drop them down. And actually, the 600 watters are slightly more efficient with the ballast. So you're not losing some of that electricity you're paying for to heat, okay? So that's one way that you could increase your light your light intensity is you could use 600s, you keep them a little bit closer. The other way to do it is to use light movers. This keeps your plants, you know, it keeps your lights close to your plants, and it also keeps heat pockets from building up within your garden. If you look at the photos here on the screen, you'll see two different systems. On the right side, you have a massive hydro garden, and he's using light movers. He's got, I think, maybe 6 rails. He's got 2 lamps on each. They're going back and forth. Now, the interesting thing that he's doing, and you could kind of see on the right photo, just to the right, you see a little bluish-white hue. That's because this grower is mixing his metal halides and his HPS in his flowering room. And this is a great idea because what it does is it broadens the spectrum of light that he's feeding his plants. And we're going to get into spectrum in a few minutes. But like I'm saying, we're trying to get close to the sun. The sun is full spectrum. Every color, if you remember, Roy G. Biv, right, comes from the sun. We're not really hitting that mark with our HID lamps. So at any point, if you can mix your lamp types or use supplemental lighting like fluorescence, possibly LEDs, we'll get to that in a second, this is a good idea. But what I wanted to focus on was he's using light movers. Now on the left side is a whole new system. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's been around now for a few years. This is from Lifelight Technologies, and it's a 4-arm spinner. Now the interesting about that is you don't have to cool your lamps. He's got that 6 inches above his canopy, and it's spinning like a ceiling fan at like 30, 40 RPMs. It's very fast. And it cools the lights because it's spinning and it prevents heat from building up. So that's another excellent idea. And on top of that, he can put in any kind of combination of bulbs that he wants to in those spinners. And they come in 2, 3, 4, 6 arms. Now that's a more expensive alternative, okay? That's, you know, these are some more commercialized growers in Northern California. Maybe they have some money to do that kind of thing. But it's a good example. It's a good example of how you keep your lights moving and you keep it down low close to the canopy. So like I was just saying, here's a good shot. Hold on, we have an announcement. Here, use this. There you go. Sorry, we have an announcement.
Sorry for this commercial break. Somebody was missing their license at the front desk. I hate to interrupt this. So everybody give a big cheer for this stoner, Aaron Radner. Aaron Radner. Cheer for this stoner, everyone. Aaron Radner, we did find your driver's license at the front desk, you stoner. Okay.
While we're doing announcements, someone left their prescription eyeglasses at the Northern Lights booth, and they have them. If you lost your prescription eyeglasses, the Northern Lights booth has them. There he is. All right. See, it wasn't for nothing. We helped somebody. Awesome. Okay.
Fuck, where were we?
Somebody have a torchy going? Okay, spectrum. So let's just talk about that for a second because that's what this is what I want to get into here. Light spectrum, also known as frequency or wavelength of the different colors, is measured in nm, nanometers. So you always see when you buy your bulbs and stuff, you see the charts, and they all say full spectrum. Bullshit. It's bullshit. They're not full spectrum. First of all, they're missing 100% UVB, UV light, ultraviolet light, and that's pretty important for plants. It comes from the sun, and it's really important in flowering. So they're never going to have that on an HID bulb. There are bulbs that have it. I'll talk about that. But what you'll see here again, this grower is using light movers, and you could see the different hues. You could see the different spectrums right there. It was a really lucky shot because when you walk into a grow room, it's really not, you know, that distinct. You don't, to your eye, you don't get it like that, and they're moving and everything. But the camera caught it, and I thought it was a great example. So that's just a metal halide and an HPS, and you can clearly see the difference. Now, they're on light movers. You don't want to do this stationary, you know, because only half your garden's going to get one type and half the other type. So you gotta move them, and you gotta move them at a fairly quick rate. You know, the light movers I was talking about before, the horizontal, you know, those are linear. They're just going back and forth. It does something, but it's not delivering the light at the same beat frequency as the sun. Now, those spinners, the guy who, you know, the mad scientist who invented that, he told me, well, I've developed the exact algorithm to spin these lights with 4 different bulbs, 4 different types of bulbs, because he has his own line and he measures them in a Kelvin rating. So he has a 3K, a 4.2K, a 6K, and a 10K. And he puts them in there and it spins and it delivers the light at the same beat frequency that the sun does. Because that's important. Like I said, the plants have evolved for millions of years under these under the sun rather, and they're used to getting all the light at once and processing it all at once. Now, that's not to say that your plants are going to wilt over and die. See, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not telling you you have to do it this way or you're fucked. That's not the case at all. I mean, I've seen, you know, a plant grow under a fucking desk lamp. Okay? I mean, it'll grow. It's weed. It's a weed. But that's not what we're going for. This is medicine. Patients rely on it. Also, you don't want to ingest crap. And you want to maximize the potential of your plants. We have these excellent genetics now, you know, through breeding and all of these hybridization products. We want to unlock that plant's fullest potential. Okay, so spectrum. Spectrum is the key. And this is where we're going to get a little technical. So here's what I wanted to show you guys. And this is going to pertain to all your questions about LEDs, about supplemental lighting. Is it good? Is it bad? Supplemental lighting is good. Supplement your HID bulbs with something. I always recommend that. But here's the problem, LEDs, okay? So LEDs come out, good energy efficiency, low heat. These are 2 big assets for growers. But if you notice, when you flip on that LED light, what color is the light? Blue, pink, purple. When you go outside and stand under the sun, what color is the light? It's white. White light. Okay, so let's think about this. So I started talking to some of the manufacturers. Now, let me retract something for a second. There are some LED lamps out there now that are full spectrum, close to full spectrum, equal to a HPS or a metal halide, okay? They're like $3,500. Just saying. But most of them on the market, they put in the red and the blues, and that's why we're getting this pink and purple light, because it's red and blue. And I just knew there was something wrong with that. I mean, it's not natural. You're feeding your plant 2 frequencies out of 9 or whatever, 8, I don't know. So let's take a look at this curve. What we're looking at here is the absorption rate of your plant. The absorption rate of your plant, of the leaves, when the light hits it. Oh, look at this. I could get all the way over here. This is awesome. Oh, this works. Here we go. Okay. So, imagine this bottom line here as your full spectrum, okay? It goes from red to blue, everything in between. You all see that, right? So the absorption curve here, you're seeing the blues, 100%. The reds, 100%. What's the problem? Red and blue. Most efficient absorption, let's feed it to the plants. Makes sense, right? So I started thinking, yeah, it makes sense, but that, I don't know, it just doesn't sound right. You know, it's like eating only like chicken and peas. I don't know. So then, talked to this scientist guy, and he said, yeah, that's a good curve, but what you need to do is overlay the sun's natural frequency, natural spectrum right here, and look at the rate at which it's delivering the light. So this color is what's present in nature, okay? And you'll see that what the sun is actually giving out is not equal, it's not equal spectrum for every frequency. It's lowest in the red, and it's lowest in the blue. That's interesting. So now if you think about it, why would a plant be most efficient at processing and absorbing the red and blue? It's because in nature, after millions of years of evolution, it became the most efficient at processing what's least present in nature. It just stands to reason. It needs all those colors, so it's more efficient with the red and the blues. So that's great, but guess what? That doesn't mean it doesn't need all of this. It needs its yellows and oranges and all of those hues in between. And of course, we're highest in the green and the yellow from the sun, and most of that's reflected. So really, the absorption curve, you want to be kind of straight. You want to feed it everything, and you want your plant to get everything it needs. But just because the plant is more efficient at processing what's least abundant in nature does not mean that that's all it needs. See, so that was the misconception, I think, initially with LEDs. And I think that the industry has gotten on board with that. And that's why we're starting to see LEDs that are full spectrum. Okay? But those little diodes, those light emitting diodes that they use, they're very expensive. And initially, the reds and the blues were some of the cheapest on the market coming from China, from what I've been told. So it just stood to reason, and so this is how the evolution of LEDs came. So then I just started to think, well, okay, how important is it? And this is what I said earlier. How important is it to give your plants full spectrum? Because if you grow it under just red and blues, it will grow. In fact, you can get really nice bud under just red and blue. We talked about photons earlier. Remember, I told you we'd come back to this. The red spectral frequency carries the highest, by far, amount of photons. That's the plant food right there. So that sounds fucking awesome. But I was like, still, okay, what's happening to the plant? Why is the plant responding just to red and blue? Well, we realized, and if you've ever experimented with just LEDs, it's real hard to get a comparable yield to your HID. But you get real nice nugs. I mean, crystally, potent, very aromatic. I mean, I've seen some really nice buds under the LEDs. But it's because the plant is freaked out. You're put it under a purple lamp. It's stressed out. The plant is stressed, and its natural defense mechanism when a plant gets stressed is to just start making resin. Because you know what resin does in nature? It grabs pollen, and then it ensures its lifeline, and that's the natural reaction of a plant. Now, if you wanted to do that to your plant at the end of flowering, hell, you could dump 18 bags of ice in your resi and freak the fuck out of your plant. I heard a guy tell me he put whiskey in his reservoir. Whiskey. Do you want to put whiskey into your cannabis plant? Do you want to just feed your cannabis plant blue and reds? So, okay, so I went back to this scientist guy and I said, I want to know what happens on a molecular level in the plant. Just tell it to me. I might not understand it, but let's hear it. If I give it just red and blue, what's happening inside the plant? And he went on about, well, first of all, your plant's going to stretch because your ATP development with your NHDPHs isn't quite there, and so your cellular walls don't bind up together correctly, and you get that stretching mechanism. And he goes on and he says this and he says that, and okay, you get the picture. It's just not natural. So what did I say earlier? I'm just trying to think about how to keep as close to nature inside as possible. I don't want to knock LEDs. There's LED guys here, and usually after this seminar, they're all waiting for me right over there, and they kick my ass. So just LEDs are not totally bad, okay? What I recommend, though, is use it as a supplemental light. I don't know about a $3,000 supplemental lamp. It sounds kind of crazy. But, you know, if you want to add a little bit extra spectrum, it's good for the red because you're getting extra photons. Now, that being said, how'd that go right there? If you liked what I just said, just be like, yeah, that was okay. If you understood it, and because you know, I'm not a rocket scientist either, so, okay. Okay, so look, I'm already ahead of ourselves. Here's just the recap on that LED debate. This really pisses off the LED guys. Did we cover everything here? Red and blue is most efficient. Red and blue use the most in photosynthesis. Red and blue is least present in nature, so plants evolve to absorb them more. Does not mean that's all they need. Like I said, you have a new baby. You're just gonna feed it peas and carrots? Like, yeah, come on, that ain't gonna work. Okay. The last thing that I want to get into, and I feel that this is my duty to, as a fellow grower and a consumer who spent so much freaking money on lamps and equipment, I love uncovering this kind of shit. And I'm going to tell it to you now, and you're going to be pissed off. Sorry. But there's a problem with ballasts, okay? There's a problem with the compatibility between our HID bulbs and our new super awesome electronic digital ballasts. Now here, I'm not going to knock electronic digital ballasts. I'm all about progression. I'm all about efficiency. They are great. The unfortunate thing is that ballasts are made in China, and most of the light bulbs like Hortilux and GE and all these great things we use are made in the United States, and they don't really talk. So the ballast manufacturers in China came out with these electronic digital ballasts. And we found out that, lo and behold, they're not compatible with our HID bulbs. Now, I'm sure you're saying, what do you mean? I use both and they work. They work fine. They fire up. They do. They fire up. They work fine. But you're actually cutting the life cycle of your bulbs exponentially with each cycle. After your first cycle, you've lost about 25%. Now, you can't see this with the human eye. And that's another thing. You know, we all go and you go into your hydro shop and, well, how many lumens does this bulb have? And how many lumens? Lumens is a measurement for the human eye. It is not a standard measurement in plant biology, horticulture, agriculture by any means. We use lumens to determine lighting a stage, okay? So it's really a bunk measurement. But, okay, it gives you some indication of the intensity, the strength, the power of that bulb. If you actually had a light meter, a photometer, even if it reads in lumens, and you put it underneath your HID bulb after running it for 3 months, one cycle on an electronic or digital ballast, you will see that you're almost a third less than where you started. After 2 cycles, you're at half. There's some exceptions. Sometimes I've heard that the bulbs, hang in there for a while. But it really bothered me that us as the end user, as the consumer, is going and dropping all this money on these bulbs and these ballasts that are only causing us to spend more money again. It's not right. And to the credit of Hortilux, one of the big bulb manufacturers, they actually wrote a 4-page, what I call a retraction, but it's not, in Max Yield magazine, and they delineated this entire problem, and they were kind enough to sit down at their lab in Cantor, Ohio with me and do an interview and discuss this problem, because I couldn't fathom how this happened. So how it happened is that our traditional core and coil ballast, magnetic ballast if you will, they run anywhere from 40 to 60 hertz frequency. And that's what our bulbs, all of our HID, HPS, metal halide bulbs are made to run on. Guess what an electronic digital ballast runs at? 3,000? Oh, it's on the screen. Oh, you guys are stoners, dude. You should have all been like way ahead of me on that. 20,000. 20,000. 20,000 versus 50. So what does that do to the bulb? If you had blinder shades, those things that allow you to look at the inside of your bulb when it's fired up, you see that arc tube, it's producing the light. If you look at it on a regular ballast, it's doing its thing. It's, it's got that little electrical. If you look at it under an electronic or digital ballast, it looks like this. It's completely erratic. It causes what's called acoustic resonance. Acoustic resonance. And what that does is it burns your bulbs out shorter, or the life of your bulb shorter, by actually rupturing your end seal in your cap. Sometimes it happens immediately. And the real sad part is all that sodium and mercury vapor comes right on out onto your buds. I know, it's crazy. This is, if you listen to anything I say today, this is it, because it's dangerous, it's costing you money, and it's not, it's not right for the industry, for the manufacturers, or for the patients. But if you read that retraction from Hortilux, their solution was just go back and use the magnetic ballast. Okay, that's a solution, but that stands in the way of progress, okay? We still want to push this industry. We still want to further our cause. We still want to maximize the potential of our plants and of our bank accounts. So I like the electronic digital ballasts. I want there to be electronic and digital bulbs. That's the solution, not go back to magnetic ballasts. So, okay, so now you want to know, well, how do I get a digital bulb? Well, this is the unfortunate part. There's not many out there. There are a few. There are a few. The first one I showed you already, and I don't really want to plug any products or anything too much, but those spinner arms that I talked about, and those bulbs that they put in those, I told you the company's name is SunPulse, and they make their bulb in every shape and size you could imagine, from a 150 to a 200 to a 4, 6, a 750, 1,000, and an 1,100. And all of those bulbs come in a Kelvin rated format, a 3K, a 4.2K, which is like a metal halide, a 6K, which is like an HPS, a 10K, which has the UV. It's awesome. They're awesome. They're super expensive, and they're very hard to find. Not so awesome. So I've been doing this seminar for like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years now. And I just felt like a total shill every time I'd come up here, and I would tell you all these problems, and there's only one solution for this ballast issue. And that sucked, and it, you know, it makes me feel like I work for SunPulse. So I searched high and low. I've been searching forever, I still am, for other digital bulbs. And a friend of mine, I think he's here somewhere. Where's Mikey? Dutch Mikey? Raise your hand, Mikey. You're not here. Okay, well, he turned me on to these guys in Holland called Gavita. Gavita had a digital bulb, and I went over and I talked to him, and I said, where'd you get that bulb? The guy looks at me and he goes, Philips. I was so pissed. And then he told me, yeah, they've had it for 7 years. I said, why are these not in grow shops? Why are they not being used? Oh, well, it's Philips, you know, and they're not really down with the hydroponic scene. So they only make these bulbs to run on 400 volt for big ag. They run them in all the big greenhouses up in northern Holland for hemp, for tulips, for vegetables, whatever. But they worked out a deal, and Gavita got the rights to make these bulbs at a 220, 240 voltage. So, okay, now they can be used in North America. They can be used in Canada, no doubt. We're all on 110, 120, whatever it is here, but our main lines coming into our homes all from the street all have 240. So it's a matter of getting a good electrician and getting a 240 circuit. All the big commercial ops already in Denver or San Fran or LA or hell, even in Ann Arbor and stuff I've seen, they're all running 240 anyway. It's more efficient, but now you can use a digital bulb from Philips here in the States. Now, the only issue is they made it proprietary, meaning that it's a specialized bulb. It only fits in their ballast. Sneaky fuckers. Sneaky. No, but it's a digital ballast. It's a good ballast. It's a weird bulb. It's double-ended, so it clips in both ends. So it's a solution, and they're here in the United States now, and you can check that out. And you can check out SunPulse if you can find them. They have stock issues. Until then, if you can't find those bulbs, I guess the solution probably is, you know, using a magnetic core and coil ballast. I hate to say it. I'm not, you know, I want to keep things moving forward, but it's just too much money to keep wasting. Some of these HPS bulbs and metal halide bulbs, you know, running, you know, a buck and a quarter. And that's a lot of money if you're doing some serious growing. So, that's the scoop on ballasts. We've talked about LEDs. And that's really it for that. And if you have questions, which I'm sure you do, and I won't be able to answer them all, you can reach me anytime. There's my contact info. And now I would like to show you a video. But before I do that, I want to say a couple of things because I have the stage and I can. And this is to every single one of you here. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for hosting us. I know that there's been some hard times here in Michigan in the last month, okay? And we've never done something like this here before. High Times hasn't. But it's even more important that we do it now in the hard times and that you meet each other and that you talk to each other and that we do this. We trade information. We trade genetics. We shake hands. We make friends. We build confidence. And we have strength in
This
numbers.
is the Medical Marijuana Radio Network.
This is going to be
You are
history.
watching
And we're going to have our medical bill federal, and it's going to be legit for everyone. And we're not going to even have to run outside to smoke in our cars or any kind of bullshit. This is just a plant. And you guys all know that, and you all turned out for this and supported that, and that's awesome. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let me see if I could get this video to play. Yeah, now I need the audio. Let's hope this works. That ain't working yet. I can't get the video. Yep. What's that? Do you know how we get out of that? Are you familiar with Max? Hang tight, everyone. Okay. This one? Bring up the video.
No, not playing. You got Where's the video? Got a desktop.
All right, we're gonna roll with this. Hoping that we have audio. It's plugged in. Hit it. No audio. Yeah.
You know what it is? Audio won't go through a VGA cable. It has to be oh. Then we should have audio.
All right. It looks good. We're There we go. Thanks for waiting. Welcome to my instructional video on cannabis cultivation. My name is Nico Escondido, and I'm the cultivation editor for High Times magazine. Now, I've been growing marijuana for the past 15 years in countries around the world, but in this DVD, we're going to take you on a tour of the finest grow facilities that America has to offer. We're going to show you indoor techniques, greenhouse growing.
This is the Medical Marijuana Radio Network. You are watching exclusive live coverage of the first annual Detroit Medical Cannabis Cup event sponsored by High Times Magazine at Berts Warehouse Theater in downtown Detroit.
during the vegetative phase to increase the number of tops or main shoots. This makes this technique ideal for trellising or screen of green growing because it helps the branches to bush out, grow up towards the light, and then the growers can simply pull them through the netting like this to help separate the branches and create better light penetration throughout the plant. Now let's take a look at how it's done. First, we're looking for the very top shoot of the plant. So you look for the highest point on the plant, which is right here. And you'll see that this little shoot, right in the internode, is a terminal shoot. These two branches underneath my fingers will benefit from pinching off this top, just like this. Now the terminal shoot is missing, and these two will grow to become main shoots. This will continue by topping out the rest of the plant all around the sides so that all the side branches become main tops. Now there's a second method to pinching or topping off plants known as the FIM technique. This technique differs slightly in that instead of pulling off the entire top terminal shoot, you use trimmers to take off only 80% of the shoot. This leaves behind about 20% and creates much more vigorous undergrowth and a lot more main shoots than would simply topping a plant. Let's take a look at how this is done. First, you find a top terminal shoot, such as this one. You'll see here you have the first and second shoots underneath, with this being the main terminal bud. Now instead of taking off the entire bud, where the incision would be down here, we're going to move up and take off about 80% of the bud. And what you're actually left with there, if we can get a close-up, is something that looks like a freshly cut lawn. It may seem a little bit unhealthy, but don't worry, the plant will rebound fine, and you'll see vigorous undergrowth and a lot more main shoots coming out the sides, more than just the 2 or 4 that you can get by topping off a plant. This technique is also known as "fuck, I missed," because when growers sometimes try to take the entire top off, well, sometimes they don't get the whole thing. Turns out, this was a blessing in disguise. Try it out, especially if you're using a trellis or a screen of green method. That's all from here. Another advantage associated with greenhouse growing is that growers can employ a little technique known as light deprivation. Light deprivation is something that anyone can do, whether it be a small home grower with a greenhouse in the backyard or a large-scale commercial grower such as these. This technique, I'll show you right here, is very simple to do. If I could just get around Gigantor over here. Oh, she's doing well. This technique entails using tarps such as this, which will come in any size. They can cover a large greenhouse, a small greenhouse, a cold frame, or a hot frame in your backyard. And basically what the growers do is after 12 hours of sunlight, they cover their gardens. This keeps their gardens in a flowering state. Using light deprivation techniques, growers in greenhouses can get multiple harvests a year, which is obviously a huge benefit to them. The only caveat to this is that you gotta really seal off your entire greenhouse from any light. If light leaks in and some plants get hit by it, it can get confused and revegetate. If this happens, these gorgeous buds might turn hermaphrodite and start forming seeds, and that's definitely something we don't want. But obviously, these plants are thriving. Here we are at Camp Cool Farms in Northern California, standing next to one of the largest trees that we've seen so far on the road out here. This is a cross of Cannatonic and Cabernet. Cannatonic, of course, is a great medicinal strain high in CBDs, and Cabernet is an exclusive strain from Camp Cool Farms. They've been growing that out for a few years now. Just because I know you're wondering right now, well, how did they get such huge trees? Well, first let's start at the beginning, which is the reason why they need to have huge trees out here in California. The way the laws are set up, growers are only allowed a certain number of trees. So the thinking is, why would you bring it inside where you couldn't grow a tree this size? You got to bring them outside, put them in the sun's natural light, and get as big a yield as you can off a tree this size, which would probably, I'm going to guess, is somewhere around 5 to 6 pound range. There's a couple of key elements that we need to go over to get plants this size. First and foremost,
is the medium. It's the soil that it's grown in. These guys make their own soil. They get it from North American Organics. It's a special mix that really drains well but still holds moisture in, and it's all organics. It's true live organics, meaning that the soil is well fed and the plants get everything they need out of the soil. Next, obviously, is the sun. You really can't get any more intense than the sun's natural light, and this is a southern exposed range, so it gets sun throughout all of the day. And lastly is the technique of trellising and topping. So when these plants are in veg, they continuously pinch off the tops, which forces bottom shoots to grow out and create a bushing effect. And then they pull those side shoots out through the metal trellis, allowing more shoots to come up the center. And voila, double overhead. Try surfing that.
And that's that. I know, kind of like a shameless self-promotion thing. I don't sell them. High Times sells them. They're in the back. They're $20. If you're interested, pick it up. Would kind of make me look good. But yeah, thanks again, everybody. I have like 5 minutes, so if you want to, I could take like 2 or 3 questions if anybody has any. If not, we could go okay, we have some questions. Here we go. Hold on, I'm gonna come down here. Oh, hey, everybody. Jesse, our video guy, he made that video. It's okay, I think. I mean, I know I'm not an actor, and I'm kind of a dork and shit, but whatever. I mean, you get to see big plants. Hey. And Jesse. Okay, we got questions. Yeah. Question is, what about the Hortilux daylight bulbs? Oh, okay. Yeah, those are awesome. They, the problem still is how you're gonna run those. You know what I mean, on the ballast. But in terms of spectrum, it's as close as we get. Oh, okay. Oh, he'll get the quick. Thank you. Yeah, they're excellent. And they're closer to the real plasma lights, too, that are starting to come onto the market. That's something that I didn't talk about earlier. But plasma light, none of these HID bulbs are plasma. I'm sorry. All of the HID bulbs are actually plasma light. But they have a plasma bulb now. It's about yay big. It's activated with microwaves, and it has full spectrum, and it's on par with those daylights that you're talking about. It's not bad. I think over here. Yeah.
What's a perfect pH?
What's the perfect pH? Damn. You want to make me go over numbers for? Shit. Okay. Indoor hydro, I think you need it around 6. My numbers could be a little off here. If you're doing soil, it could be a little higher, obviously. The thing about mediums, we didn't talk about that at all, but, is you saw in the video, like that cocoa core. I think that's one of the best mediums, because what you're looking for is buffer, you know what I mean? When you go into a hydro system and you're growing plants in rock wool or some inert substance, or even in like hydroton, the clay pebbles, those roots are super exposed. It's great because they're getting maximum oxygen, but at the same time, if your pH level is a little off, or if you, dose a little high on the nutrients, it's going to be much less forgiving. If you talk to me afterwards, I'll give you exact numbers on it. I'm sorry, I'm not going to lie, I did a torchy before I came up here, so. Yeah.
What's the best hood on the market? The best reflectiveness?
The best reflector hood?
Yeah, the air cooled.
For air cooling, those Hydrofarm hoods are what I use. You know what I mean? With 6 inches, or I think they come in 6 and 8 inch flanges. It's a funny thing about reflectors, and that's the problem with LEDs. Is LEDs are just one direction. With HID bulbs, so you're getting light 360 degrees
The High Times
all around.
Medical Cannabis
so
Cup is
theory,
coming to Detroit on October 5th.
No reflector or no hood, you're losing half your
The
life.
High Times Medical Cannabis Cup.
Now, they have like those galvanized reflectors sometimes with the dimples, you know, and those are supposed to be a little better because they refract in more directions. But, you know, the funny thing is it's physics. Light goes to dark, okay? So really when people ask me about reflectors, my answer is, doesn't so much
In the world of
matter
marijuana,
about the
the number
quality of your
420
reflector, add one more light. Add one more light to the darkest area of your grow room, and that will keep light. I know
has
it
special
sounds
meaning.
crazy, but it's physics.
It's known as a
Light goes to
universal
dark.
code for time
So
to toke up,
really you
or
lose some light
time to
in
get
those
high.
dark corners.
The custom
You know what
began
I
in the
mean?
mid-'70s
Under
among a
canopy,
group of
you know,
students
because
at San
everybody's just
Rafael
trying to
High School in
fill that
California.
space. So I
420
usually
was
add
there.
a light, but I've always used the hydro farms. You know, I like them to be enclosed. I like the lens. I don't think that those X-wings or whatever, you know, the cheapos, I don't know, they're a little weird. They move around too much for me. So, anyone else?
I got a question about green lights, night working green lights.
Green light, sure.
Nobody ever mentions spectrum, intensity. What's safe? I mean, like I use just green CFL party bulbs, but I tend to use 9 in a 10 by 10 room because I run my lights at night, so I work during the day in there.
Green lights are fine. I've never had a problem with them. I've heard that the weird, the ones that are sometimes painted, you be wary. You know what I mean? Because it's not really a green light. I mean, it's filtered, you know, and if it gets chipped or anything, you're screwed. Right. This is one instance where I like LEDs. They have these like little green LED lamps. They're awesome. And you saw on that spectrum before, I mean, like 95% of green lights reflected anyway, you know? So it will absorb a little bit, it will, but it's never really messed up plants. So I've always just kind of guessed that there's a point to which a plant can absorb some light. Even in a light depth situation, I've seen cracks, it hits it, you know, maybe just that one branch gets seeded or something. But a plant's absorption, you know, really needs an intense light. So just go low wattage, you know, and just steer clear of those bulbs that could chip.
So trying to light the whole room.
Oh, you're lighting the whole room green?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. What kind of intensity, where should you cut that off?
Are you doing this just for nighttime to work in there?
Yes.
You don't keep it on all the time?
No, just see it, but I tend to run like 9 of the 15-watt CFLs.
They're 15 watts? Yeah, that should be fine.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Thanks.
Yep.
Good evening. When it comes to CO2 naturally in an enclosed room, like homegrown, we're just starting out. Do you have to enhance with the CO2? And is it more important for the flowering stage or during the whole life cycle?
Yeah. CO2 is not needed as much during vegetation at all. Ambient CO2 levels are about 300 to 400 ppm, like here in Detroit in the city, and that's really pretty good for a plant. In nature, they're not even going to get 400 ppm. So people like to bump up that ppm to ridiculous amounts. Okay, I mean, you know, 12, 1500, something like that. I don't like that. I believe, you know, CO2 is going to pack weight onto your bud, so it's good for yield. But I believe, again, that there's a point of diminishing returns. It's like a human on steroids, you know what I mean? Like, the more you build those cell walls and everything, eventually something's going to give, and you're gonna get degradation, you know what I mean? So I generally, if I do supplement with CO2, I keep it somewhere around 700 max. I don't use propane burners or anything like that. I would feel too bad if I blew up my whole apartment building or something. So there's these CO2 boost buckets. They're completely organic. It's like a mushroom farm, I guess, in Pennsylvania. And the cake that they grow their mushrooms on, regular mushrooms, don't get excited. The cakes they grow them on, when it like composts and degrades, it gives off a high level of CO2. And they just put it in a bucket and they put an air pump in it. And you run spaghetti lines, you know, through your plants, and that knocks it up to about 500-600 ppm. I've been using that for years, and I really like where there's a noticeable increase in yield, maybe like 10%, but I'm not, I'm really not doing it for yields as much, you know what I mean? Like I want quality bud, so, yep.
Earlier you touched on UVB light. So now the high pressure sodium bulb doesn't contain much and a metal halide would contain more, but when you go through glass you lose UV light. So in your opinion, what would be the most efficient way to bring that into the garden?
That's a good question. That's a really good point. And when you were talking about reflectors, sir, I mentioned that I like the lens. I like the lens because I feel that it keeps the heat in a certain area. And if I'm not air cooling those, I suck the heat just radiating it off the top. But the lens does, provide or present some problems when it comes to spectrum. So what I've seen with the UV lights, it's really weird. It's like I said, light goes to dark. So what I've seen is in the four corners generally of the room, they attach the UV lights for the last 2 weeks of flower. And those are usually in some sort of sheath or like vertical hood, if you will. You know what I mean? No glass. And they're just like in the four corners, like literally, so you get the full effect, I guess you could put one in the center too if you wanted. But they're so hard to come by, you know what I mean? And they're pricey. So I also wanted to say, when I was talking about supplemental lighting before and how to use LEDs, some LEDs are really strong, so you can put them up top. But what I prefer for supplemental lighting, I just wanted to throw this out there, is fluorescence. Because I understand they're not as intense, they don't carry the power. So really putting them on top of your canopy, you're not going to get any penetration, okay? But they run so cool, okay? There's no heat. So I just slide them on the floor, or I literally just, those vertical ones, I just hang them right on the side around the grow room, like right in the bush, like right there, in like the second, middle, third of the plants. And I think I've gotten excellent results with that. And actually, fluorescents provide one of the best spectrums out there. They're just not that intense. Okay, last question, I'm told. Last question.
I see that they have these bulbs out that they call them dual arc bulbs, and they have metal halide and HPS in there. Do you lose out using that bulb, or is it a benefit pretty much?
What do you mean, are the lights competing?
Well, that's what they say, that the Horty Lou interview said that when you take the blue spectrum of the halide and then the HPS and you cross it, they carry better to mimic the sun spectrum. But they're also saying that in a 1,000-watt bulb that's dual arc, they have a 400-watt metal halide and then a 600 super HPS. Now, are you losing out not using the 1,000 HPS and would be better off using the 1,000 and just mixing each as 1,000, or is it better to keep it in one bulb?
Well, I think it's wise to use a stronger HPS bulb, because like I said, the red, that the HPS is your red and oranges and yellows, and your metal halides your whites and your blues, and so there's more photons coming in there with the red. So I don't know that it matters that you use 1,000 and a 6 or a 6 and a 4. I don't think that matters. Like if the ballast and the hood could accommodate it, go for it. But I think that you do want to keep the HPS higher.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, that was pretty much one. I was wondering if it was losing out in the flower mode on the HPS because it was only 600.
Oh no, I don't think so. Like I said earlier, the difference between 1,000 and a 6 is negligible, because I'd say after all your heat loss from the electricity on 1,000, you're probably at like 850 compared to a 6, which is probably running at a higher efficiency, like 650. I use 600s all the time. The thousies are just too hot. Cool. Well, that's all the time we have, guys. Thank you so much. I can't believe you all came and you all stood over there for so long and everything. That's awesome. I'm honored, and thanks for having us. I'll see you all tomorrow night. I'll see you at the party tonight. Be good, everybody. Thank you.
Nico Escondido, everybody. Give him a warm hand. Whoa!
Medical Marijuana Radio Network. You're watching exclusive live coverage of the first annual Detroit Medical Cannabis Cup event sponsored by High Times Magazine at Berts Warehouse Theater in downtown Detroit.
All right, welcome back to the Medical Marijuana Radio Show. We are live at Berts Warehouse Theater in downtown Detroit, right at 2739 Russell Street. If you've never been to downtown Detroit before, it's right in the Eastern Market District. Eastern Market is a famous place where they sell a lot of produce. It's a big, definite, a large industrial complex for the sale of produce, and they do meat and all kinds of, they got Halloween stuff out there right now, pumpkins, all kinds of great stuff. So it's High Times Medical Cannabis Cup is brought to you by High Times. It's actually a great program throughout the country. These guys own the name Cannabis Cup, and they suit it well. It used to be exclusively just in Holland, and what's really cool about this is that we brought it here, or they brought it here, and we're really grateful to have them come. They did it in Denver. They did it in San Francisco, and we're on the list as number 3, being Detroit. I'd be interested to find out where they're going next. So that being said, I wanted to bring out the chance to introduce a new magazine and a guest as well. Go ahead and tell them about the magazine and tell them who you are and what you do. Oh, you've got to turn the mic on. There you go.
Yeah, I'm an amateur. So basically, we've got a brand new magazine out in Michigan, printing 10,000 copies this month. Basically condensing all the information down together. It's more photography.
Here, I got
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. So it's more photography orientated. You have a bunch of reviews of the medicine that we have here in Michigan, more accurate reviews, and a lot of tutorials for people on how to do anything pretty much. We don't have enough political articles yet, but we're still working on that. We're still working.
So you're entertainment driven right now.
Right. We're at this point, it was the easiest thing for us to put out there is just the entertainment. Usually the photography. People love to look at pictures. I think that's the reason they even buy magazines, is so they can show their friends the photos, so they could share that. So.
Well, I mean, how many times do you walk up to a guy and he's like, "Oh, look, I got you." Get the baby pictures. They pull out the wallet right away to the pictures.
Exactly. And what we want to show is I have a video tutorial on YouTube coming out this month, showing people how to do photography on their own, professional, just like we do with their regular cameras. You don't even need some high-end SLR camera to take photos, so they could share their pics with us and the rest of the population here.
The art of digital SLR photography is just that. It's an art. It's not a skill set that you acquire. It's about knowing how to do photography. It's about knowing what makes a great photograph. And you either know it or you don't. It's kind of like singing. You can either do it or you can't.
Absolutely. What we like to do is I want to show people how they could go to Home Depot, get a couple of light bulbs, the high spectrum white light bulbs, and take their nugs out, and with the right distance and the right settings on their digital cameras, they could take professional high-time quality photos, and then either submit them to us or just anything else they want to do is show them off to their friends, So
there's nothing wrong with showing off nugs to your friends.
Nothing, absolutely not. That's why we try to have a lot of nugs featured in the magazine here, and just to show people that
Some people are offended. You see a lot of people offended by, what do you got to brag about your meds? That makes it like illegitimate somehow. But you know what? I don't say that. You know what? They're not bragging so much about the meds as they're about their ability to make them the way they are.
Absolutely, I think so.
If you do anything well, you want to be recognized for doing it well. If you're a runner, and then you enter races, and then you get recognized for running, because not necessarily because you're accomplishing anything for anybody else, but you're making record marks. You're notable in the sports world, and I think when you are up and coming in the medical field as a purveyor of medicine, you kind of want to have some bragging rights as to who's doing it right.
Well, not only the rights, but you always want to photograph. You want to show people the end product the way it's supposed to be. There's a lot of people that have mold, they have spider mites all over their stuff, and to be able to photograph your own stuff, just to get those nice macro shots, zoom in to see what kind of product you ended up with, it's a good thing. So I encourage all the photographers in Michigan and all the growers to if you want to be featured in either the magazine, if you do have high resolution photos on our website, on a blog, we'll gladly do that for you. And you could get a hold of us just filling out the contact form at WeSmokeWeed.com and submit your photos to us, and we could.
That's what I was going to ask you about. First off, who's this magazine aimed at, and how often does it come out?
Well, we're actually aiming to do it once a month, but right now, as the content goes, we're limited on content. Not everybody's willing to let you into their house to photograph their plants, and a lot of the people are constricted by the legalities of it. For us to enter your grow room, it's I have to be your patient and all that stuff. So, the opportunities that we have is either, I'm a medical patient myself, so if I acquire some medicine, I'll take it and I'll photograph it. I'll try to get as much background about it. And
It's just like any other new business. When you're starting out at first, resources are limited, demands are high. But as you get along, as you move along, I mean, you hope to be a monthly magazine.
Absolutely, and we're going to maintain to be a local magazine here in Michigan. Although a lot of people say, why don't you guys spread to all the other medicinal states? But we want to kind of just condense on Michigan, especially the laws, because you could see the law itself was formed and now it's being slowly chipped away.
Thanks, Bill Schuette. Thanks, Chuck Chumka. Chucky. We hate Chucky. What a fat little liar that guy is.
Now we got grow rooms that have to be separated by walls for each individual patient, and and that's a huge thing because.
That's Attorney General Schuette. That's General Schuette. We call him General. I call him the General around here.
He's basically done that now and making it more difficult for growers and patients because it's going to be more cost effective, and it hasn't been determined yet.
I think you're trying to say less cost effective.
Well, no, more cost effective for the grower, because now he's got to separate all his rooms, build custom rooms to put 12 plants in each room. So it's going to be a lot more expensive to do that.
Correct. Less cost effective, not more cost effective.
So basically, I still want to talk to a lawyer. I was going to ask Matthew Abel or anybody else who knows anything. What's considered a wall? Is a wall a glass? Is a wall a chain link fence?
I don't even think it's a wall. I think it's an enclosure.
Enclosure. So if you enclose everything in chain link fences,
I think that's an enclosure.
So I guess.
I mean, I would call it an enclosure, but really, this is left willy-nilly up to the judges that have these individual decisions, and then as each somebody decides to go, they're going to take it to an appeal level. Then you got to.
Yeah, these are the problems with the laws right now. They're not defined. They're not exactly where So we have an exact definition of what's supposed to be. So if I put chain link around all my plants and separate them, they'll come in and take me to jail and say, you know what, that's not a wall.
Incidentally,
yeah, no, a wall is a drywall or a wood board.
I mean, don't let them waltz you down the wall that road either, where they're just trying. They're going to parse every word they can. They're going to argue every gram they can. They're going to argue whether something's dry usable weight or not. They're going to argue whether they can include this as part of the dry usable weight or not. They're going to test every little tiny thing that they can so that when they get you into court, guess what the first thing they're going to do is?
Right.
They're going to deny you a medical marijuana defense.
Exactly.
And that's gutting the program. By doing that one thing alone, by denying you to defend, that's the only thing the program does, guys. It doesn't give you the right to grow. It's still illegal to grow. This gives you a defense to growing so that nobody can charge you.
Absolutely, yeah. I've actually, I don't want to speak about my case. I had cops come into my house, break my door down, throw me on the ground. Luckily, I was a caregiver. I had everything within my limits. They left the house, but they broke my door down.
Did they have a warrant?
Oh, they did have a warrant, but when I got an attorney to find out what that warrant was issued for, they told my attorney that I'm still under investigation and they're not going to give me my money back that they took from me, or they're going to...
You see there, guys? If they dropped the charges, they dropped the charges, right?
Well, there was no charges to begin with.
So they never made any charges, but what they say now...
They took $230 and they called it buy money. So they basically said that was my purchasing money for the meds. And I have 2 patients myself. I'm a patient, my
right.
So they couldn't do anything. They left everything behind, and a broken door also, which I had to spend money.
So they broke your door for about $750 so that they could steal your $230.
Right, basically.
And call you a criminal in some way. Look, anytime the police are there to protect and serve, I'm going to back them up 100%. I back you guys up. You guys do a job I could never do. Honestly, I couldn't do it. I don't have the makeup to be a policeman. Honestly, I don't. But I can tell you this. If I was a policeman, I would never disrespect you until you disrespected me.
Absolutely. You know, in the,
Find me in your living room any more than I would expect you to find me in your, or you in mine.
right. You know, the moment they found out I was a caregiver, that I did have my medical card, they eased off. I could see the tension kind of decreased a little bit. They treated me more with respect, and they were at the state level, so they had to follow.
This was state police.
Right. This was yeah. I'm not going to mention which unit. And,
It's okay. We don't care.
but yeah, it was state enforced. So you know, so they had to follow the rules and and the regulations, and I gave them the paperwork. And
I also don't want to paint with a broad brush myself, because you know, I've always been the friend of police. But the minute the police, to me, try and pretend they're my friend, and then they go, oh, we were just joking about that being a friend thing.
Right.
We just wanted to say that so you'd let us, let your guard down, let us in the door, because that's ultimately why the reason we want in the door is why.
well, I mean, to incriminate you and take your money.
That's the money. It's about the money.
You know,
don't ever take your eyes off the prize. It's definitely about the money.
and $230 is not a lot of money, but at least they paid for their gas and maybe.
That's what it comes down to. Now, you see why they threatened you about wanting the money back? Oh, we're not going to give you your money back. We're not going to charge you, but we're not giving you your money back.
You're not getting anything. And
You know what I'd have said to those guys? I'd have been, okay, so you're not going to charge me, you're not giving me my money back, so you're telling me you're stealing from me then. You're just going to steal it.
absolutely, they broke my door down and they stole from me.
If they were anybody else, what would happen to those guys? They'd be hauled off as criminals and charged with a felony home invasion.
Absolutely, you know, and then and not only that, but my whole neighborhood looks at me weird now. You know,
Sure. Oh, there's that crazy dope guy in the corner. Oh, there's nothing but trouble from that guy.
they have little children, you know, around everywhere, and now they're scared to let their kids walk by my house, you know, and it's funny to me, but it's the reality of it. These guys are out there to get you, and they to be honest with you, I think their warrant wasn't too strong, because they would not even let me see the paperwork.
Of course they're not going to. Look, the people that they get to sign these warrants are often under very, very shaky circumstances, and if they ever admitted to it or showed you what the basis of that warrant was, somebody'd have to do some answering. Oh, you got some splaining to do, Lucy. You got some splaining to do. Well, what do you mean? Oh, there's nobody complained? There was no undercover narcotics buy. There's been no surveillance activity indicating increased traffic that would indicate a problem. Nobody picked through the trash and found anything. So what do you go over there knocking on Johnny Grower's door for?
At least I would like to see some paperwork, you know, that shows me, hey, this is what they did. They pulled my garbage. They found a leaf. They found.
You know what they'll generally do if you ask them for the paperwork, don't you? It's this right here. Sorry, that's what they'll give you. They'll give you the bird.
And
Bobby doesn't like the bird. He's like, oh, it burns my eyes.
And what I just want to let the public know, I think as little as a Q-tip, if you clean your bowl and put that dirty Q-tip in your garbage, they could use that to get a search warrant. I don't know if...
it's absolutely true. It's THC. It's evidence.
So you know, be careful about throwing your Q-tips out from after you clean your bowl, because that could be used as evidence.
Look, seeds, papers, burnt roaches, all kinds, anything that could be indicative of illegal or potential illegal drug use is reason enough to get a narcotic search warrant.
Well, basically, you know, I like the U.S. Constitution. I'm here from Poland, and I moved here obviously to stay.
God bless America, and the need to have to welcome the tired, the huddled.
Not only that, it's unlawful for them to criminalize a plant, and it's unlawful for them to say, hey, growing a plant is illegal. It's against the Constitution, I think, for them to take that from us. So all this legalization, we actually met Tim Beck himself. We did it's
almost not even biblical. You know, God gave dominion over the plants and the animals to men.
And I think there's a bigger conspiracy about this.
It's about the money. Don't take your. It's about the money.
I also think it's one thing. It's about the money, but I also think it's the cancer. And if something could cure.
Again, it's about the money. Look, right. if you got a treatment for cancer, that's just a treatment that just gives you prolonged life and it gives you a little bit better quality of life, but it's not a cure. But you got to keep taking it until you die. Don't you think that's going to make you more money as a business model than a cure for anything?
Absolutely. What I also believe is that, you know, they have a lot of elderly citizens here, and if you give them a natural medicine they could grow to extend their own lives and live longer, collect more Social Security, you know, that's probably not a benefit for the...
Certainly not for the drug pharmaceutical guys. Look, they want as many things that they can. They want maintenance drugs. They want stuff that the Social Security Administration's got to pay for you because you can't afford them yourselves for the rest of your life.
Absolutely right, yeah.
This is not something that will do that for them. They're not going to get it out of the marijuana, guys. You can grow that anywhere. That's what this is about. That's what this is about.
It's the freedom to produce your own medicine to produce your own sleeping aid at the end of the day.
Look, if the tobacco guys thought you could grow tobacco in your own backyard, which we can't because of the climate here, they'd be pissed at us too. Same thing goes with making alcohol. It's illegal to have a still, but you can make your own beer and wine. There ain't nothing wrong with that.
Right, and that's fine. You can go to Sam's Club and purchase a beer making bag and
exactly
brew your own beer, and you're not getting your door kicked down because you have a whole brewery in your basement.
Do that with a still, and it's another story.
Right. So
see, there's a big difference, and if you're going to make these distinctions for alcohol and other things, tobacco, this is certainly inside of that group. It is certainly not a slippery slope like, oh yeah, well you can start there, and then it's just it's pretty soon every cocaine and heroin in every CVS and Walmart around the country. That's what the guys that were against us would say.
In the population here, a lot of people use cannabis in Michigan, but there's not too many people that will stand up and they will go to these rallies and they will go either vote or protest.
They're pussies. They're all pussies, I say.
Either they say they don't have time, they got jobs and whatever. So what we're trying to do is create another avenue for the news to go out, for the pictures to be out there. I believe if more and more people, if the larger population here in Michigan is for medicinal marijuana,
it's demonstrated that that's the case.
We will probably be closer to legalization than ever before, And
oh, don't say that. That's going to make those conservative guys really pissed off. Oh, you're going to get those guys so freaking mad if you say legalization. Oh, you said the L word. Oh, that's like putting a nail in our coffin.
Because there's so many products in the whole economy. Like I just witnessed, we went around the conference here. I have a flyer. I'm just going to grab it.
I don't want to get too far astray from the magazine issue. First off, where can we find your magazine at? If we're looking for the magazine, and is it online? Can we find this publication online?
You could order this magazine online, and we'll either a subscription or just one copy. It'll be free. It'll be shipped free to you if you order just one copy or a subscription for $30.
Subscription goes for how long? A year or 6 months?
We're aiming to do 12 issues. Worst case scenario, we'll end up with 10. And then it's based on the content. It's based on how many people we can meet to give us photography opportunities. Either give us a donated bouquet of a cut plant for us to photograph, because mainly we want to focus on the photography. And
that's where a lot of sex is at. The sex is all in the photo shoot.
Well, exactly. This is
Hugh Hefner.
This is really compared to a weed magazine is almost like a pornography magazine. It's really close. You hide it. People come over. My landlord comes over.
It's under the bed with the Playboy.
Exactly, absolutely. So it's in the same genre, same category. So you can't just go. When I walk around,
you can't say that guys don't use both magazines for both things. I'm not sure sometimes.
Right. Even when I'm walking home.
Look at her. Wait a minute. Oh, whoa.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
You don't know which one they're talking about. Which magazine are you looking at? You're wowing over something. Let me see that.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely. I like this thing because it's educational. Growing itself is really education, I believe. A lot of young people now, because of cannabis, they know how to grow their own crop of food. They can feed a family because you're hydroponics. So it's really important to keep people updated and educated on some of the new products that come out. So we like to feature a lot of new products too. New inventors. There's tons of these guys here that come up with a new, invention for the cannabis community that they could use. So we like to feature those guys, advertise.
Necessity's the mother of invention. I'd say we got a lot of need right now, so I think there's a lot of invention happening.
Absolutely.
As long as that's happening, we got guys like you to put and publish about it and take pictures of it and demonstrate and give us the really cool view. Look at that picture. Take a look at that picture. Can you get a little zoom in on that? That's a pretty awesome picture right there. We Smoke Weed.
Oh, We Smoke Weed magazine available right now at WeSmokeWeed.com, or soon in stores. It's going to be in your local head shop and hopefully your local dispensary if they work with us. So.
We got to keep the dispensaries open first. We got to reteach those guys a new business model so they're not going, oh, we can't have patient-to-patient transfers. Wow. Oh, look, have you ever heard of donation, guys? You can do a donation.
Well, now, there's always something. I actually recently went to a dispensary myself, and they always have something that they illegally could get away with, and I love that because, here comes the law saying that this is illegal, and I went there and I was still able to, get some medicine, and I was excited about that because they restructure a little bit. And
that's right. It's all it is. It's just about the way you talk about how you make your business. How is the business model structured? Where's the income coming from? If you say it's from marijuana sales, you're going down. You're going down in flames. IRS is going to get you. Local state feds are going to get you.
Federal law. I actually heard this on another radio show. although I do listen to yours all the time.
Sure, yeah, right. No, just-
I heard this, that the federal government is now will even go as far as charging the magazine companies for publishing ad space.
Oh, wait a minute, it's not just the magazine guys. I saw the same story. This goes about TV, radio, and newspaper. And so this affects, look, all the advertisers that I have of this show, in the first place, have been kind of driven away by this whole closure business. You know, this whole court decision, the appellate court deciding that patient-to-patient transfers aren't legal. So when that closed up the dispensaries, boy, it had a cascading effect through other businesses. Pretty soon everybody's closed. Nobody's doing business anywhere because they're all afraid. And that's exactly what Mr. Schuette and the appeals court wanted. With very little effort, they made a big effect.
Absolutely. Well, I've done some digging on Bill's campaign contributions, and almost $25,000 was given from wholesale alcohol distribution companies.
Exactly. Those guys don't want us making any money here.
Funny because I'm starting to think that nowadays people are instead of going to the bar, they're saying, "Hey, we're medical patients. Let's get together and have a smoke and instead of going to the bar." So alcohol is probably being
people use alcohol medicinally every day too. They just don't call it that. You know, they're stressing out. It's just no different than they go down and take a Valium, or they get some other kind of benzoid or whatever. These doctors are willing to prescribe anything Big Pharma will give them for whatever you want. And we've got this instant pill remedy mentality as Americans now. Oh, I don't feel so good. The doctor's got to have some. I got to have a pill for that. Whatever it is, I think we've just become too mamby-pamby. We don't want to be human anymore. Look, part of being human is getting sick and being well. It's living and dying. It's part of what you got to deal with. And if you think for a moment that you don't have the right, or you have the right to not be offended, if you have the right to, look, I'm sorry, but life just isn't that smooth and easy.
No, there's hardships out there.
Political correctness doesn't occur when you're out there seeing antelope being eaten by lions.
No, not at all. So yeah, that's for sure. So again, the more media we could get on this, the more people involved. There's tons of people here at this event, and a lot of them are coming here for entertainment. But if more of these people would get involved, a lot of the elderly, I'm starting to notice too. I've heard on the radio show that
they're activating.
But there's not too many people that are speaking directly to them and trying to get them out because they're a huge part of the voting group.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you an example of it. My good friend Marvin. You ever know who Marvin is? He was running for senator there for a while, and I don't know, he might do it again. Who knows? But nice, kind, elderly gentleman. He's 70 years old or so, right in that category. He's 70-ish. And, he's 70. He just had the big 7-0. So I think it was 7-0. I'm pretty sure it was 7-0. Anyways, so Marvin, we love you. But Marvin tells me, look, I was just at a party the other day. It was just this casual party out in somebody's backyard, 30 or 50 people there. Every single one of them is smoking a joint. Now, not all those people had cards, and I would say that the vast majority of them probably didn't have cards. A good portion of them did, but then Marvin goes, look, everybody here's smoking weed. Let's go see if we can get them activated, see if we can get them politically doing something, right?
Yeah, as far as signing any petitions or they usually don't do that at the end.
Here's what he ended up doing. He went up to a lady. He goes, "Oh yeah, you go that way and I'll go this way." So he goes up and talks to a lady. He says, "Hey, if I know she's here smoking it. Let me hit that joint." He takes a joint, passes it back to her. He goes, "You know what?" He's like, "There's a way that we can make this so that we don't have to suffer bad consequences for this activity because it's really not something that's really all that bad." And she said, "You know what? Shut the hell up." And he goes, "What do you mean?" He said, "I came here to party and smoke weed. I don't want to hear your political crap."
Right, exactly. So these people are, I know a lot of.
It makes me mad. It makes me so mad.
Oh, yeah, I know a lot of people that won't get their cards. They're really sick and they could apply for the card and actually get it, but they still won't do it.
Look, I guess if I was on the outside looking in, I was one of the first guys to get a card. I couldn't wait till the program opened up. I had my stamped and ready to go. Just tell me the date. And then when that thing actually happened, and then 2 years into it, looking back, I could see myself if I just got involved in the program now going, what am I sending $100 to the state for? They're already knocking everybody's doors down. What protection am I getting for this $100? And for the $150 or whatever I got to spend at a doctor's office to get a certification, considered that I'm eligible?
Well, not only that, but it's once a year. Some programs are every 2 years. We have once a year, so they're generating a lot of revenue. What do we got? 100,000 people that have their medical cards?
Neighborhood, yep.
Something like that. And that's the type of money that's going to come back every single year to the state.
It is coming back every single year to the tune of, about $5 million a year.
Absolutely. So, by them chipping away at this medicinal law and taking away more and more rights, every time they can, it's disgusting because that money. I mean, 100,000 people times, let's say, multiply that about $100. And then the stimulating of the economy that we're giving to the physicians, local physicians here in Michigan, is huge.
Well, it goes beyond that. You got the mom and pop gardening centers. You've got the doctors' offices. You've got the secretaries that work at those doctors' offices. You've got all of the people that make money from those guys.
Right, and it's employment. Right now we're in a bad economy and employment is low. And I could put.
Here's the other thing. Besides the employing people, look at the money you send out of the state otherwise. If you're not growing it here and keeping the money here, guess where it's going? It's going to British Columbia. It's going to our friends in Canada. God love them because they've got a great system over there. And then the same thing down with Mexico. You got bloodbaths on the borders of Texas.
Then you're smoking low-quality product that comes from Mexico. It's got mold on it. It's really dangerous, and people are going to turn to that because they have no.
That's all they got left.
That's all they got left, So
and you send your money, all your wealth goes out of the country, out of the state.
I believe, I honestly believe that it's at a global level. I believe there's few people out there that don't want this to be legal, either globally or in this country, and they will do everything in their power. And these are billionaires. These are people that have.
Yeah, it's absolutely. So one more time, can we get the name here? It's WeSmokeWeed.com. Yes, WeSmokeWeed.com. And then We Smoke Weed Magazine. Look for it at your local dispensary. Look them up online. Order a subscription. Check them out. It's the new sexy sell of medical marijuana in the state of Michigan. Are you guys planning on going nationwide? You going to?
Medical states, maybe, because nationwide, obviously, I think the funniest one is Oklahoma because you could go to prison for making hash over there or an extraction. You could get, a life in prison for making an extract. So I would hate to, put this
life in prison for an extract.
Absolutely. It's we also have a blog online on WeSmokeWeed.com. It's a blog that we try to keep up with the news. It's really difficult, but we have a lot of these stories where the law is passing. I'm not sure if it passed yet, but in Oklahoma, that if you do make any extractions, butter, oil, hash, you could get life in prison just for that action.
So much racism down there. That whole medical marijuana, the whole marijuana prohibition thing down there, all about racism. All about the people of color. They were so mad at those guys. They were like, this is a way of oppressing that people. It's always been that way. It's still like that.
And no matter what the government does, people are still going to use cannabis. They're still going to find it. They're still going to purchase it. They're still going to.
Look at that guy's shirt. I'm sorry. That's one of the coolest Detroit shirts I've ever seen. It's got a guy with a fro on it. It's really cool. It's a black and white logo with a guy with a fro. It's kind of a flashback to the 70s, but not quite.
Well, anyway, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for putting us on the show here. And I love the radio show. I wish more people would tune in, and hopefully, we could put you out there even more. To get more and more listeners, so
I always wanted to tell this joke on the air. I just never had a chance to. I'll tell you what, because it sounds like it's really bad. It's not. Well, it kind of is. What's the difference between a Corvette and Bill Schuette? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, I screwed it up. Never mind, I screwed it up. Show us your shirt, Steve. I screwed it up. Okay, yeah. This is in honor. There, look at the iPods. We love you, Steve Jobs. We love you. God rest your soul. What a great man.
Absolutely, yeah.
Be able to do this show or have any half of the technology available to us. Our lives have been so much improved by a man like this. So I like the pot leaf iPod.
It's a great logo. I love that. It's original. Whoever came up with that, a lot of props. And
maybe we can find. Maybe you can report on where you can get those shirts on your next issue.
Oh, for sure. If like I said, if people contact us, it's difficult for us to find others, who want to advertise or who want to be in our magazine. A lot of times we'll help them out for free. We'll feature their product in the magazine, do a whole 2-page spread about it. But they have to kind of find us first and come to us and email us. As simple as that. Give us a call.
Tell me your name again.
My name is Bart.
So look for Bart. At WeSmokeWeed.com. You can write, is it Bart at WeSmokeWeed?
Yeah, that's my email, but if you go to the contact, we have a contact form on the contact button. If you just fill that out and send it to us, it goes to my email, goes to my business partner's email, and everybody that works for us sees that and gets attention at that point.
It's an awesome magazine. It's certainly high quality printing and photographs. It's the way to go. If you're gonna start a publication, you want it to be of this caliber and quality, for sure. Look at the graphic. Look at the time that went into this. This is national quality, and we should be proud of our community for having pumped it out. So we have to hold you in high esteem in regards for having a high quality product, and for look, this takes a lot of work to do a publication like this.
You know, the biggest part of it is the photography. You know, sometimes we spend 6 hours just to get 4 or 5 shots. I'm working on a plant for 6 hours just to get a few shots. So
it's like any great work of art. Look, in the world of radio, we do the same thing. I'll spend half a day working on a 60-second commercial. You never see the time to go. Same thing with a movie. You know, they spent 9 months making that movie, and that was just the post-production. They spent another 3 shooting it.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It took us, to be honest with you guys, almost a year to put out the first issue, just to get the whole hang of, putting articles together and working with article writing.
Layout, the design, the printers.
Design, and then, finding the right publisher to do it right the way we would like it and for the right price. It's not an easy task.
You still got to distribute it and be successful with all of that venture. So, kudos to you for having come this far. It certainly is a milestone measure for you.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you having us on the show here to put the word out there. Like I said, I'll work with you, vice versa, to get your word out there, because
the word's going to get out there. It's combinations of people like you and I and Rick Thompson and Charmy Goldson and all these other people who go out and do these jobs on a regular basis. It's just about getting the information to the people, so we've got some control over the talking points. If we don't keep control of this, believe me, they're going to. Those people in Lansing are meeting with their constituents. They're meeting with their friends, their organizers. Our enemies are already met with our legislators. If we don't go and do those same things, what can we expect is going to be left on the plate for us?
If we stand down, then
we've lost the war.
They're just going to do
it's a right flag.
They're going to walk you into that gas chamber and gas you.
That's right.
If by the time you're in the line, you're saying something about it, that's already too late. You better be out there protesting against that stuff years before it happens, so you got to advocate somehow. And I haven't. This is the most we could do right now, is to put this publication out there and to inform more people, educate more people about the benefits of marijuana and all its.
So let me ask you this: are you going to the George Clinton, the Dr. Funkenstein concert venue, the VIP concert, High Times VIP concert venue?
We're gonna go home, take a shower, get dressed up, and
did you get
I got the special
the
VIP one.
pink one, High Times. What gives? What am I, chopped liver? I got the pink. What am I, gay? What's going on here? Oh my God, I am gay. How'd that happen? Go figure.
The purple one. So we're gonna take some photos on that stuff and try to put it in our blog today, and maybe feature this whole event in our next magazine also. So we are gonna do some photos here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming by. We'll look forward to you. We're going to see you out here. Hopefully, taking photos of everybody out here.
Absolutely. We're going to take some photos right now. We're going to put those on a blog.
High Time's going to let you see some pictures. Are you going to maybe work with them and getting some beauty shots?
I don't even know how they're going to feel about our public. We are a local magazine. We're not trying to compete with them.
Sure.
These guys are the masters of photography.
Oh, they know what they're doing for sure.
They got pictures I've never seen in my life before, and
I hope so.
And obviously we can't compete with them. But if they accept us as a local magazine that's contributing
you're just all you're doing is reprinting with permission. Hey, this is what we did. This is what the people at High Times did here locally. I think they'd have no problem with that.
Right, yeah, so we're going to get together with them and ask them if that's fine. If we could do that, and then use their logos or their names in the magazine.
As long as you put the trademark thing, I think they'll be fine with it. That's their registered service mark. That's their your U.S. Patent Trademark Office.
Right, we'll try to contact somebody there. Hopefully they answer the emails. It's difficult to get through to a big company when you're still the little guys, So
everybody's been there. Those guys were there once too.
Back in the '70s, though, so they have a.
It was a different day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely different. I don't remember that stuff, so.
I don't either, but I was a little small fry then. I was a little crack back then.
Okay, well.
So we got to kind of button down, but we'll hopefully see you out at the concert event. We'll see you out here tomorrow. We'll maybe see you walking around taking some snapshots and helping to pervade the content like that. Thanks so much for stopping by. So Eric's going to rejoin us. We got a button up here because we just got the high sign that they're going to close things down in for about 15 minutes. We wanted to roll out with something as we're busting down here. We wanted to see if we what do we got queued up here? Oh yeah. Oh, this is the How to Store Your Weed video from High Times. They were nice enough to share it with us, and we'd like to present it for you now. Don't forget, later tomorrow we're going to be back. Tonight we're going to see if we can go take some footage of the Dr. Funkenstein concert, and then if we got a chance, we'll roll some of that back for you tomorrow. Tomorrow, I promise to have a lot of other vendors here sitting and talking to you, giving you a taste of what was here in case you missed it, and what you're about to come and see if you're on your way out. We hope to see you out here. It's at Berts Warehouse Theater. It's 2739 Russell Street in Detroit. 2739 Russell Street in Detroit. There I go with the flapping fingers again. I got to stop that. It's the never-ending yeah. So here we go with the High Times how to store your weed. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for showing up today at RadioWeedShow.com.
Everyone loves fresh, sticky buds, but many people don't realize that proper marijuana storage can keep your cannabis fresher longer. It's up to you to protect your pot from natural enemies such as mold, humidity, and exposure to light. Remember, improper marijuana storage is how good pot goes bad. Let's say you just picked up a quarter of some beautiful strawberry cough. You probably got it in a cheap plastic sandwich bag, which is fine from getting from point A to point B, but you don't want to use plastic baggies to store your pot. Your buds can get crushed, it's not secure because odors can escape, and finally, your weed dries up and turns to fart dust. If you're using envelopes or aluminum foil to store your pot, you're ridiculous. The best solution is to use airtight glass jars, but be sure to select an appropriate size. You don't want too much extra space in your jar because extra space means extra air, which dries out the buds. Fortunately, companies like 420 Jars offer a variety of sizes and styles, including these limited edition Jack Herer jars. And who wouldn't want Jack protecting their weed? So choose an appropriate airtight glass jar for your quarter and transfer it from plastic as soon as you can. If you have more weed, you're going to need a bigger jar. Sometimes you need a really big jar. Now, these jars are clear, which means light can still affect your pot, but you can avoid this by always storing your jars in a cool, dark place, like a cabinet or a drawer. Dark jars, like these, protect your buds from light, which makes them ideal for your table weed. Never store your cannabis in a refrigerator, as temperatures and humidity levels fluctuate. The freezer's even worse, as freezing temperatures can separate the trichomes from your pot. And trust me, you want to smoke those. And remember, heat rises, and heat will dry out your buds. So don't store your jars in cabinets that are above appliances that produce heat, like an oven or a refrigerator. This Blue Dream has been properly stored for 2 months. Let's see how it did. Not bad. But let's put it to the test. Now that's some well-stored weed.